One of the key reasons that people's study ability is limited is because they feel tired really easily. The fatigue sets in quickly, and it's really hard to, push through that groggy state. And the certain pillars of health, diet, sleep, and exercise, are amazing for improving your overall health and optimizing your longevity. But they also will help with your studying, and that's what I hope to discuss today. So I think for most of these things, the important take homes are you don't need to be absolutely perfect. If you're just pretty good, if you're in the top 20% in each of these categories, then you're amongst the top percentages of people overall in terms of health. Now, you've probably heard a million times that, sleep, diet, and exercise are good for your health. But how exactly do they relate to studying and how can they help you achieve more in less time? Well, sleep, as we know, is so important for memory. And so bread and butter, if you can get, most people can get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Not only will that help your mood and concentration the next day, but it'll also help the retention of information. Now, why is this relevant? Well, lots of people, when they're really pushing it and grinding, will sacrifice sleep for more study and they'll pull late nights and all-nighters, etc., in the days before their exam. But that's compromising your memory from that day. It's compromising how well you absorb the material. So it's a pretty dangerous gamble. And definitely on the days before your exam, if you have times with less sleep, that's going to impact your cognitive performance on exam day. So I think as a general rule, we should try to avoid all-nighters or late nights anyway. Um, if there's an assignment that you have to get in that night, sure, that is more permissible. But anything related to learning memory and that require focus and concentration, it's important to try and get ample sleep. And so the 2 or 3 days before my exam, I'll be sleeping as much as I possibly can, which is probably around 9 hours per night. Now, diet is a tricky one. There's so many people have their different takes. There's some general principles which I think are helpful. Don't consume more than you burn. Ideally, stick to whole foods rather than highly processed foods, etc. But what I really want to talk about is certain foods can impact your cognitive performance, but this is very person specific. Some people will find that after they've had carbohydrates, they get really groggy and fatigued, and it's hard to concentrate. I mean, personally, that I don't find that's the case. Some people find they're really switched on when they're fasted, and they like to eat after their work or their podcast. Now, I think the important thing here is just to note that everything's different for every person, but to experiment with different things. How do certain foods make you feel? How is your attention and concentration when you are fasted versus unfasted, etc.? For me personally, I don't really benefit too much from that breakfast meal in the morning, at least in terms of a mood and energy perspective. I'm not that hungry in the morning, so then I generally put it off until after I've done a block of studying, and then I'll eat a bit later because I want to prioritize that morning period just for work. So experiment with different things, timing, what you eat, etc. Then exercise. Now, this is again a very important factor for overall health and longevity, but can also improve focus and mood and concentration. Um, and there's an interesting idea here between, I guess, vigorous exercise and just general like light exercise like walking. So, in terms of vigorous exercise, again, it's something to experiment with. When I went for my first run after I'd finished school, I probably ran for about 5 minutes, and I was so tired after it. I just came home and I was like, "This is terrible," and I was borderline falling asleep. I was exhausted. But now I do 10 minutes in the morning, and that makes me feel switched on. It helps me wake up at the start of the day, and I don't have that groggy feeling. So experiment. Do you want to exercise, before your session? I find sometimes when I'm quite tired around the afternoon, going for doing a bit of exercise, where that's probably weights or a light run, will help energize me. And so I think exercise has a role in breaking some of the fatigue barriers, as well as improving your concentration. Now, that's on the vigorous exercise side of things. Now, I think in terms of walking, that can be really good for thinking tasks. So if you need ideas, one option is you just sit in front of a notepad and write your ideas. But another thing is just going for a walk for 15 minutes and just thinking about the topic. By the process of ambulating, your mind will actually be quite switched on, and that's something to experiment with as well. So the take home from this video is yes, these pillars of health are very important to look at from a health and longevity perspective. Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating healthy foods? Are you exercising enough? But also, each of these factors can be considered to increase the efficiency of your studying. More sleep or an adequate amount of sleep will get you better cognition, attention, and memory. Diet can be used again to manage your focus and attention. And exercise is another pillar that will improve your concentration, your mood, your ability to study for longer periods, as well as your thinking and creative capacity. If you have those periods where your mind is free and you're walking through nature, for example. These are all things to experiment with, and they're all different person by person. So try them out and see where it takes you. Thanks very much, guys.